Fans, here we go. Main events, Peltz Boxing, Final Forum Promotions, and BAM Boxing present our main event of the evening. Our main event, 10 rounds of action in the heavyweight division, sponsored by Coors Light and Rocco's Collision. Our main event judges, David Braslow, Julie Letterman, and John Potteray. And our main event referee, Gary Rosato. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner. Originally from Samoa, he is now living and fighting out of Clinton, Illinois. He weighed in at 278 pounds, wears blue trunks with white trim. A perfect professional record, 10 victories, no defeats. 8 of those 10 wins coming by knockout. Please welcome Natu Visinia. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner. He comes to us tonight from right here, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He weighed in at 205 pounds, blue camouflage trunks. Professional record, an excellent 27 victories, 6 defeats, 12 wins by knockout. He is the 2-time World Cruiserweight Champion, Steve USS Cunningham. Our referee, Gary Rosato, has our main event fighters' final instructions.
Get the mouthpiece. Steve, got your mouthpiece in? Got your mouthpiece in? Okay, gentlemen, I gave you specific, detailed instructions in the locker room. I'm only going to tell you 2 things. Protect yourselves at all times, and most importantly, obey my commands at all times. Touch gloves, bang at the bell. All right.
10 rounds, heavyweights.
There is Steve Cunningham. He's won 2 straight since that loss to Tyson Fury. That was in May of 2013. Visinia has yet to lose. He has yet to fight, though, at this level, anywhere close to it.
Not anywhere close to this level, Kenny. It's going to be very interesting to see how he responds to the speed and the type of movement that Steve Cunningham has, because big jump up in opposition tonight.
Visinia told us at the fighter meeting he wants this fight right in front of him. He said he's a Philly guy. He'll bring the fight to me. That's what I want to set up for another knockout.
Steve's definitely a Philadelphia guy, no question about it, that he will fight when he needs to, but he's also a very smart, disciplined boxer, and I think if Natu feels that Steve's going to stand there and trade in the trenches with him, then he's badly mistaken.
Then he has never seen a Steve Cunningham fight.
But Natu told us in the fighter meetings yesterday, he said, I know I got to cut the ring off. I know I can't sit on the outside and outbox Steve Cunningham, so I got to put myself in position to land good, hard shots. I think I can do that. At 278 pounds, he cuts a lot of the ring off when he steps in it. Yeah, he does. And, you know, he's got a little bit of fluidity. He's not like just a big guy that's unathletic. He played football in high school. He was an all-state football player. He was a wrestler. Practiced a lot of martial arts and different things like that. So he's been very, you know, he's very athletic, and he knows how to move for a big guy.
As we see here in the early going.
Another thing, you know, he's 10-0 with 8 knockouts. He doesn't have the experience to beat Steve Cunningham, right? He says, you know what, I was in camp with Vladimir Klitschko for 4 weeks at a time. I was in 2 different camps with him. I was in another camp with Evander Holyfield. His team and he has gotten a lot of experience and a lot of confidence, you know, through those camps with good current heavyweight champions.
He flicks out a strong jab, does Cunningham.
And that's where Steve's got to stay behind that stick. He's got to use the double jab, the triple jab, and mix up the tempo so Natu can't time that punch.
And there's the quickness. Another jab landed by Cunningham.
Steve's starting to open up a little bit, starting to loosen up, starting to land some shots. But Steve wants to be careful not to trade jabs with Natu, because Natu's definitely got the heavier hands.
Natu trying to cut it off now by getting in the corner. Ducking under, getting out. Steve Cunningham, to the delight of this very partisan crowd.
That's exactly what Steve's got to do when Natu gets close. And he said it himself. I'm going to set the tempo early in this fight. The first couple rounds, I'm going to make it very difficult for Natu, and I'm going to show him he's in out of his league, make him tired, tire him out, win the fight down the stretch.
And, of course, Cunningham coming into this fight knowing that he has a younger, hungry opponent in front of him, a much bigger man as far as the weight is concerned, but also weighing on his mind is his daughter, Kennedy, born with a heart defect. At one time, they were told because her veins had actually compensated for the lack of blood flow into the heart that her veins had gotten so big that they could not do a surgery. It would be inoperable. But things have changed. And that is now a nice left there by Visinia near this end of the first round. Kennedy is here watching this fight as a baby. You talk about tough, you talk about a fighter. That's the baby Kennedy. There she is with her dad going through a series of operations. As we said, the veins had grown to the size where they said it was inoperable. But now they have the hope of a heart transplant. And now here is Chris with Livy.
Thanks, Kenny. Livy, obviously an anxious time for you and your family. What's the latest with Kennedy's heart?
She's doing amazing. We're listed. We've been listed for about 3 months now. We've actually had 4 offers that have come in, but they just haven't been perfectly right for her. So her team, her medical team has passed. But, I mean, that means we're getting close. We're at the top of the list. We're getting offers. So we can only assume, you know, it's coming soon, and we're ready.
Are you in a situation where your phone can ring at any time?
I don't leave home without it. I sleep with it right next to me. I have it all the time.
It's obviously challenging for Steve not to have his family around when he's in training camp. How difficult a camp has this been for him?
It was hard, but he's a professional and a champion at that, and this is what he does. And so he had a great camp. He worked hard. He's ready for tonight.
Thanks, Livy.
Thank you.
Kenny.
Thank you, Chris. And Livy, as you told us earlier, Kennedy would not miss this fight. She was going to see her dad in action again. She goes to just about all of them as round 2 starts.
We just saw the Philadelphian Steve come out a little bit right there. He came right out at the beginning of the second round, fired some good hard punches. Visinia came back, and Steve stood there a little longer than I thought he would. But you see this is going to turn out to a fight, turn into a real fight at some point.
Larry Hazard, our esteemed colleague, and now the commissioner of New Jersey once again, the Athletic Association there, giving that first round unofficially to Cunningham, who, according to CompuBox, landed 11 jabs in that first round. And overall punches, 15 landed by Cunningham, not a knockdown, that is a slip. And Gary Rosado, the referee, right there in time, and action resumes here.
And you see when they're standing on the outside, Steve's got obvious advantages. He's got to be careful not to back straight up into those corners, move to the side, and not let Visinia get off on it.
That was a nice body shot by Visinia. Slid her right into the ribs.
Steve's got to use lateral movement and control the outside with his jab. Up and down, make the big guy think, tire him out. But it's going to be interesting also because Visinia can fight this whole fight and make mistakes. And with that one punch, he can catch Steve and change the whole complexion of the fight. Steve can't make any mistakes. He's got to be sharp the entire fight and can't afford to get caught with anything too big.
And going to the body, trying to work that. And trying to slow down Cunningham. Visinia pushes it back against the ropes.
Heavy shots by Visinia there, and Steve did something good. He made him miss. He's got to do more of that because he can't catch the punches of the bigger Visinia. He's got to make him miss and tire him out.
And laying in a couple of good rights on his own is Cunningham. And that's the thing. Interesting, wild and crazy, some think, in the heavyweight division where you can have a gap of 70 pounds as we're seeing in this fight.
It's amazing. There's 75 pounds in certain weight brackets. They're divided by 3 and 4 pounds. You got a guy fighting, 75 pounds above his weight. Very unorthodox, but Steve's got the experience to know what to do in situations, and he's got a great corner in Naseem Richardson to follow a perfect game plan.
And again, Visinia trying to cut down, and nice punches there by Cunningham. Cunningham got in a good right on Visinia.
Those are good punches by Steve, but he's got to be careful not to sit in there because Visinia's got the heavier hands. Steve's got to be careful not to stay in those trenches too long. That's the only time he's in danger, Kenny.
Cunningham's here to fight. Visinia sticking out the hand. Going to touch gloves. None of that right now. It's all business. Final seconds of the round. More jabs thrown by Cunningham.
We see in the last round here, Steve was doing some good work against the ropes, but he's got to be careful not to stay in range for too long. Natu is very big, very heavy-handed, and Steve's got to slide out of danger before Natu gets off.
It's scheduled for 10. We go to round 3.
And Steve just caught it with a nice right hand.
Again, a good right by Cunningham. Cunningham with another right, and he avoids the punches by Visinia. Cunningham is taking it right to it. A change in tactic here.
Well, Natu was busy waving Steve in. Steve shot another right hand and hit him again. Got Natu's attention, and looks like it angered the big Samoan fighter a little bit. Nice jab, and this is where Steve's got to stay focused and dedicated. Don't get drawn into the only fight that Natu can win. He's got to stay on the outside. You see Natu is athletic. He's got good coordination, and he knows how to land the good punches. So Steve's got to be disciplined, especially in the early rounds of this fight.
And the jab has been so effective through the first 2 rounds. And both rounds unofficially given by Larry Hazard to Steve Cunningham as he puts another right in there against Visinia. Let's check in with Chris.
Jermaine, you guys wanted Steve to stand in the pocket and trade. Is this your kind of fight?
Yes, it is. But he doesn't want to fight. He's holding and moving at times. He's doing good. Steve's doing good.
You're now entering the later rounds, kind of uncharted territory for your guy. How's his conditioning look to you?
He's all right. He's there. We're good. He's here.
Thanks, Jermaine.
Visinia never passed the 6th round in his career. Cunningham seems to get stronger as the fight goes on. That's the condition he walks around in most of the time, around 200, 203.
Oh, you're right, Kenny, but it doesn't seem like Natu is tiring too much. He's still stalking, and whenever he's stalking Steve, Steve's always at risk because he does have the heavier hands. When he traps him in situations like this, you see Steve make an effort to try to grab and hold on to him, and that's where Natu could get some good work in.
You see the total punches landed. Right now, 40-punch gap in favor of Cunningham.
Cunningham's definitely landing more punches, Kenny, but you know, in this heavyweight division, one punch can change the fight, and Natu's doing some really good work.
Especially with a man as big as Visinia, who tries to go to the body now of Cunningham.
And Visinia is just very physically strong, so it's going to be interesting, too, to see if he can wear Steve down on the inside by pushing him, by pulling him, pushing his head down, hitting him on the arms, hitting him on the shoulders. Those kinds of things can come into play later in the fight.
And there's the elusive Cunningham. Waving in air was Visinia.
Cunningham landed a nice right hand and tried to stick that shoulder in to get a little space from Natu. Got to keep working the jab on the outside. Give the big man something to look at.
Final seconds, round 3. Cunningham still dictating the pace against the much heavier opponent here in our main event.
They want to see it, baby. Let's show him something different. Put that hammer on this dude, take him into this deep water, and let him stay on that stool. Run your combinations and offer those Steve stabbing. You got to stay relentless. He's swinging big. He's looking for the fence. All right?
Nazim Richardson in the corner of Steve Cunningham between rounds. We go into round 4. Incredibly close-knit group in that corner. Richardson more than just the trainer for Cunningham. And Cunningham comes out firing 2 quick jabs against the much bigger Visinia.
Nice counter combination from Cunningham a second ago. He needs to stay right there. He needs to keep his weight on his back foot, Kenny, and make sure he doesn't fall in when he punches, because that gives Visinia a chance to land the counter shots.
Well, we heard Richardson say to bring it on to him. Cunningham doing that here in the early going of round 4. Let's check in with Chris.
Nazim, how do you feel about the pace of this fight?
Good pace, good pace. We want to set this. We want this kid fighting. I mean, so far it's going the way we need to go.
Steve's obviously the more experienced fighter. Is this a fight that you see going more your way in the later rounds?
Yeah, it's going our way right now, but he just has to maintain that danger forever. It's a big man. Stab him now, pop!
What do you have to watch out with Natu?
Big man, 73 pounds bigger than you. You don't even have to be able to fight.
Thanks, Nazim.
Thanks, Chris. And that is the operative word, big. You see the size difference of Visinia.
And the size can play a huge factor on the inside when they're clinching, Kenny, because Visinia is big. He's strong. He's got that strong base. Just laying on him and just the weight of Visinia on Steve can wear him down. So there's a lot of different tactics he can take when he gets on the inside.
And again, never comparing him to Tyson Fury in far of overall skills and ability and what he's fought. But Fury, such a big man himself, laid on Cunningham throughout most of their fight and kept it against the ropes, sort of like Visinia is trying to do here.
Yeah, they need to have similar game plans. Visinia obviously is trying to stalk Steve. He's chasing him around the ring. He doesn't seem to be too affected by Steve's punches, but they are keeping him off balance and stopping him from punching. Steve's just got to be careful not to stand there and trade whenever he gets a bit flat-footed, because this guy does have heavy hands.
And he lands 2 nice punches right to the midsection of Cunningham.
Steve doesn't need to wrestle with him in there. You hear the corner, Leslie Richardson yell out from the corner. Listen, don't wrestle with him in there. Why? Because it's going to affect negatively Steve Cunningham and his stamina and his endurance in this fight. Got to stay on the outside and box. Straight punches, up and down. Use your movement laterally, not straight back.
Visinia swinging for the fences with the uppercut, but misses. Cunningham firing out jabs now with the opposite hand as he switches to southpaw momentarily. And now comes in close. Final seconds of the round. Back in 30 seconds. And welcome back to Fight Night. There is Kennedy, 9 years old, and an inspiration to all that have met her. And there she is with her mother, Livy. And outside the Hearts of Faith, they sell these USS Steve Cunningham scarves, and the proceeds, along with that Team Kennedy, going to help with some, as you can imagine, the medical costs that have mounted up over the years of treatment for young Kennedy. And many people here tonight with those scarves in support of Steve Cunningham's family as we go into round 5.
Nice solid right hand by Steve coming out in the beginning of this 5th round. Good shot. Needs to make sure we're now going into the middle stages of this fight. He needs to stick to his game plan here, Kenny. Stay on the outside, use the jab, and not try to load up with a bigger man.
And again, that last round given to Cunningham unofficially by Larry Hazard. He has it 10-9 all the way through so far. And a wrestling match breaks out in the corner, and it's quickly separated by Gary Rosado.
That's where Steve doesn't need to be. Even if he's landing shots, even if he's able to get in some punches, Visinia is so big, that's the only place he can do any damage. So Steve's got to spin out of that corner and not give him a chance to land.
And that's a right by Cunningham. Visinia trying to get one of his own in there. Cunningham getting back out toward the middle of the ring. 278 pounds of Visinia. No matter if he isn't throwing any punches, like you say, BJ, that can wear a man down over the course of a fight.
It can, but he is shooting punches, Kenny. Maybe it doesn't look, it's not flashy to the eyes, but he's landing some good body shots on Steve, and you can see that Steve is uncomfortable in there because the pure size and power of Visinia, just like Steve's corner said, those are hard shots right there.
And Visinia has knocked Cunningham down.
It looked like it was a shot on the shoulder, but just the sheer force of Visinia's punch. He's such a big man, it makes it very difficult for Steve to stand in there and trade with him. He's got to stay on the outside.
Cunningham said, I'm okay, let's keep going here, but you say just that power. It was a shoulder punch it looked like put him to the canvas.
I need to see the replay exactly what it was, but I don't think Steve was hurt, but Visinia is just such a big guy. He's a strong guy, athletic guy. Makes it very tough when he gets on the inside with all that strength.
As you mentioned, he has a background as a football player, as a wrestler, was an MMA fighter for a while, and is very agile and incredibly strong. And he's giving Steve Cunningham quite the test here in round 5. The best round so far for Visinia.
He's got heavy hands. He's marking forward. You see him. The punches to Steve really aren't bothering Visinia too much, and that's what we thought before this fight. You know, what's going to happen? He's a strong guy. Look at it, going through some of those shots. He's
a confident fighter now as he lands some good punches on Cunningham. Misses with that uppercut. Cunningham trying to fight his way out of the corner.
Steve's got to move his head here in these clinches, Kenny. He can't block these shots. He's got to move his head because you see Steve. He's visibly tired here. Visinia is exploding and coming at him, and Steve's got to get a second win. Nice right here
by Cunningham. And Visinia trying to hold on there for a moment.
Smart move, Steve. Visinia actually put his head down, and Steve laid on him and used his own weight to make him tired. See blood from the mouth of Visinia. Bad place to be bleeding because sometimes you can swallow it and it can affect you negatively later rounds in the fight.
He has blood. There's a welt on the right eye of Cunningham. Such has been this fight. Here in round 5, a big round, the best yet for Natu Visinia. The big man bringing it to Steve Cunningham. Here's how strong he is. A punch on the shoulder sends Cunningham to the floor.
We saw in the last round the pure strength of Visinia. Steve gets in close, and the power of Visinia, even though he didn't land a clean punch on the jaw of Steve, he landed on the right shoulder. Very heavy-handed. Steve goes down in a 10-8 round for Visinia, based on the clean knockdown.
He connected on 13 punches, his best of the night so far. And welcome back in to live action here on Fight Night. Kenny Rice, BJ Flores, Chris Mannix as we begin round 6. It's scheduled for 10 between these heavyweights. Natu Visinia is yet to lose. He's 10-0. Two-time cruiserweight champ Steve Cunningham has moved up to number 6 in the world rankings in the IBF heavyweight rankings. But yet again, he fights bigger men just about all the time, but none with this size advantage. 10-8, of course, with Visinia's knockdown that last round scored by Larry.
And that makes it a bit interesting, Kenny, if Visinia can come back and do some more damage to Steve in this round. But you see he's got his feet planted right there. He can't stand straight in front of Steve because the combination punching of Steve will continue to bust up the mouth of Visinia.
And we saw a lot of blood between rounds coming out of that mouth of Visinia. His corner working on him.
You see
there's a good body shot by Cunningham.
The blood spewing out of the mouth of Visinia, and that's a very bad place to have a cut because it's hard to breathe, and when you start swallowing that blood, it can make the fighter sick.
And it would be interesting as well, Visinia has never gone past the 6th round.
And he's obviously very game. He came in, he said, listen, I've got enough of this fight. I can beat Steve Cunningham. He's showing that he really wants to win, but Steve's got to execute his game plan and stay on the outside and make sure that he continues to control the fight. Nice left hook by
Cunningham. And Cunningham now delivers punishment. Cunningham again.
And you see Visinia, he took the shots and he put his gloves down. He pulled a Ricardo Mayorga and said, listen, give me your best shot. I'm still here. This is turning into a fight, Kenny. The Philadelphian Steve officially came out in round number 6.
He's ready. He's a tough street kid that joined the Navy, changed his life around, he said. And he's ready to turn this into a brawl.
And what a game, tough effort by Visinia. He's never been in with this type of opposition. He's never fought anyone as good as Steve Cunningham, but he's like, listen, I'm here. I'm going to give up my best effort, and I'm still going to be here at the end of this night. He's fighting a very courageous fight so far.
And Cunningham sneaks in a couple of uppercuts there as well. Now gets that right in. And just as important, he dodges a couple of punches by Visinia.
And that's the key. If he can dodge the punches, he can tire the bigger man out. He doesn't need to catch the punches. And this is the first round we see the littler man, Cunningham, can hurt the bigger man, Visinia.
Well, we've seen it with Cunningham in past fights, BJ. He gets stronger as the fight goes on.
Nice right hand to the body by Steve there. And you see this is the first evidence that I've seen Visinia a bit arm-weary. Nice left uppercut by Steve on the inside.
And it's mounting up. Cunningham delivering good big punches right now.
Big right hand on the chin of Visinia, and what a chin this guy's got.
He's taking the punches. You can see the blood all around his mouth. And Cunningham has laid some good leather to him. But Visinia not budging.
What a round.
What a round indeed. Here's Steve Cunningham. He fights with heart. He fights with courage. He fights for his daughter, Kennedy. They're cheering on her father.
We see in the last round the combination punching of Steve finally starting to pay off. He damaged Visinia in that last round, visibly hurt him and shook him a couple times, and it looks like finally in the 6th round he's starting to seize control of this fight.
And now this one's scheduled for 10. We move on to new territory for Natu Visinia. The 7th round. He has never fought into round 7 in his young career of 10-0.
And he was, even though he was losing the first 3 or 4 rounds, besides the round he scored the knockdown, he was still very competitive in this fight. He was making Steve uncomfortable on the inside. And the last round is the first time that we saw him kind of start to fade a little bit, and Steve landed some hard shots that visibly shook him, Kenny.
And Cunningham again firing off those jabs. Let's check in with Chris. Good combination.
What did you say to Natu after that last round?
Yeah, keep working. Don't worry about the holding that Steve Cunningham's doing. Savvy guys, don't work. He has keep on working.
Ref took a long look at that cut. How bad is it?
Not bad. He's all right.
Thanks, Jermaine.
There's a lot of blood. Blood even now that's turned his white trunks pink at times for Visinia. And Visinia taking some more punches here from Steve Cunningham. He's taking the punches. He's still standing, and he's trying to deliver some body shots of his own now that have been absent the last 2 rounds.
He's a big guy, Kenny, and he believes in his power. He's landing some decent body shots in there, but he's keeping his head right in the center. And that's why Steve's able to hit him with those little cupping punches right there, because Visinia doesn't move his head, but he doesn't care as long as he gets in range to land his own shots. But that's why his face is so cut up, too, because he's disregarded defense, and Steve Cunningham is taking advantage of that.
Cunningham beginning to dissect Visinia. The cuts on his face, the busted mouth. There's the evidence.
And he's still coming forward, Kenny. He's got a big heart. He's still looking to land that power shot that could change the complexion of this fight.
And look how active Cunningham has been, landing over 200 punches compared to 52. But as you said, Visinia weighing 278 pounds. He is always 1 punch away from ending the fight.
He is, but you see him starting to get a little more arm wearing now. He's not letting the combinations go like he was early in the fight, and that's because he simply doesn't have the experience at this stage in the fight. He's never been in the 7th round. He's never fought anyone like Steve Cunningham, and it's a different thing.
6 as far as he's gone. That was back in May 17th.
But like Brother Nazeem Richardson said, on the sheer size alone, he's always still dangerous, but Steve is definitely starting to break Natu down.
He continues to pepper him with the jabs, marking up the face of Visinia.
Steve's got to be careful in there. Natu's still smart. He's not swinging for the face and the head of Steve Cunningham. He's going to his body, his arms, his shoulders. That's how he scored the knockdown, and that's how he can break down the quicker fighter. But he's got to be more active with his hands.
Cunningham looked in your direction and shrugged.
He hears me talking sometimes, Kenny.
A beautiful tactical fight, evident in this round by Cunningham. And back live in Philadelphia, this fight has been called while we were away. Natu Visinia, checked by the doctors. The referee, Gary Rosado, going over. He is cut up. His face, his mouth. You see the doctor still looking at him. He said no more. The fight is over, and Steve Cunningham has won.
We were talking about that, the cut inside the mouth. He was spitting blood for 2 rounds, and at the very end of the last round, we said, you know what, the doctor needs to go take a good look at Natu over in that corner, because he's got a lot of facial injuries, and I think the referee made the right call.
And the chant goes up USS for Steve Cunningham. 38-year-old winning for the 28th time against a man who weighed 278 pounds. Sons Cruz right in there along with Steve Jr.
A gutsy, dominating performance by Steve. He went through some adversity. He went down in that 5th round, did a lot of really good work, and scored the knockout.
And here's what happened while we were away on commercial break in the corner of Natu Visinia.
Tuck your chin and rip to the body. You want to weather the storm. But if you rip to the body, they're going to have to save this kid.
Brought the ref over, said that's it. Too much blood, he's cut up too much, he can't go on.
It was the right call, and Natu came in the situation. Nobody thought he could win. He came in, he gave a game effort, but he was broken down by a superior, more experienced fighter. This is vintage Steve Cunningham, Kenny. He went through his moments of adversity, and he came battling back, and, who can't wait to see this guy fight next?
And who better by his side than 9-year-old daughter Kennedy. And there you see a real family affair. Nazeem Richardson very much a part of that family. There she is, a fighter. You saw a little bit of the Kennedy there raising her fist as well. For her dad, who now wins for the 28th time, and again fighting a big man, a much bigger man at 278 pounds compared to around 203. That's a lot of man, and an impressive performance for Visinia tonight. First time he's ever fought at this level, first time he's ever gone into the 7th round.
I was impressed with Visinia as well. Even though he was down on the scorecards, he always had Steve a bit on edge, but like I said, the experience, the wisdom, the technique, the fundamentals of Steve Cunningham brings him through moments like this. And of course, that Philadelphia heart. We saw it a couple times before the fight ended, but just a great performance by Steve Cunningham, continuing to move up the ladder and continuing to pass the hurdles that are in front of him to get to that heavyweight title shot.
Let's go to Joe Antonacci, who has the official's decision. Joe?
Boxing fans, after round number 7, your winner by TKO from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Steve
capacity crowd that came out to see their own, Philadelphia's own Steve Cunningham. And he does not disappoint once again. And there's Kennedy. Every time you see her, there's a smile on her face. Every time we've seen her now for the last 3 years of Fight Night. And getting to know her story, always a smile.
Well, I think it's not just Kennedy, Kenny. There's a lot of people smiling in the auditoriums when Steve Cunningham fights. He's an exciting fighter, and he's making the transition from a two-time world cruiserweight champion into a very strong, competitive heavyweight. He gives all the best heavyweights good fights, and I'm excited to see him next, Kenny. I really am.
And Natu Visinia, we saw him briefly talking with Nazim Richardson. I think respect for him. We didn't know what kind of fighter he would be. We knew he was a big man, obviously. 10-0 coming into this fight. He suffers his first loss, could not answer the bell for the 8th round.
He's got nothing to be ashamed of. You see the inside of his mouth there still. Very bloody on the inside. Those cuts are very painful, very tough to battle against, especially when they happen so early in the fight. So hat off to Steve Cunningham. He had some early moments of adversity. He battles back and does what he always does. Such a big heart, such a good fighter.
And a salute to his fans here from former Navy man Cunningham. He landed 210 total punches, hitting at a 47% clip. He was effective when he got the jabs going, and they go and go and go. 95 landed. He was throwing 243, a 39% clip according to CompuBox. So it was the jabs that set everything else up perfectly tonight for the tactical fighter that is Cunningham. And for Steve Cunningham, overall power punches, 115 landed. He took some pretty good shots, especially to the body from Visinia, but he was able to deliver and deliver. And it finally wore Visinia down. He was cut up too much and couldn't continue. And now, Steve Cunningham in a familiar position. He is standing by with our own Chris Mannix.
Steve's watching some of his highlights already. Steve, such an emotionally draining training camp for you.
Yeah.
And then you come into the gym, into the ring, with a guy who's got 70 pounds on you.
Yes.
And looks like he can take most of your punches. 73. How tough a fight was it?
It was tough. It was a more tough fight in my mind, in the locker room. I always tell myself these guys are killers, they're Superman, and that makes me rise to a certain level, But he was, he did what he's supposed to do. He's 73 pounds heavier than me. He tried to walk me down, and I did what I was taught to do. Box, a smart, sharp game plan. Didn't want to make it a fight, but I stepped in there a lot of times because I saw he was weakening. Get that TKO.
You told us you didn't want to be as exciting as maybe you were against Amir Mansour. You were still pretty exciting out there. Was this the type of fight that you wanted to fight?
Leave it to Nazim, no, not really, except, without some of the, me infighting a little bit. But I did the game plan, and I saw the blood in the water. I was a shark tonight, sorry. I was a shark tonight. Saw blood in the water, went for it.
Let's take a look at some of the highlights here, and let's start in round 5 with the knockdown that you took against Natu. Tell us what happened there.
I thought that was more of a push, but he did land a punch. And it makes, because I'm in the fight. I don't know what's going on sometimes. Ooh, good right hand, baby. Defense. Yeah, it was more of an all-balanced thing, but, get him in, he's just due. 73 pounds, his arms probably weigh more than my thighs.
Didn't hurt you?
No, it didn't hurt me. You don't see him, got up, went right back to work. Sticking the jab to his chest, midsection, stealing some of that energy, slowed him down.
And here's the 6th round where some of the action picked up for you. What did you see here, and what was the game plan in the later rounds with him?
My game plan was to go to that body a lot more. So you saw me go to the body in between combinations, land that right hand, and just go in.
Did you expect this fight to get stopped maybe a little sooner after all the damage you were laying on him?
I just box, man. I box and put in work. I see what's going on, try to take advantage. I'm getting a lot more smart. I told you guys I'm still learning. That's a dangerous fighter right there.
And here's the 7th round where, again, it seemed like your shots were landing far more than his.
Yeah.
He wasn't putting up much defense either, it seemed like, towards the end.
Not because I knew this guy was worn down. I landed some good body shots, great facial shots, pause, and just hurting him, hurting him. He couldn't do too much. It wasn't too much he could do, especially at 273 pounds. You keep bringing these big guys to me, and I'm going to keep showing you, size does not matter.
We've got your daughter Kennedy right here. The next big fight for the Cunningham family is obviously for her. What are your feelings about what the next couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months are going to look like?
I mean, just rest, man. I mean, we got 2 victories here. Steve Jr. won his tournament, the Lucian Blackwell tournament last weekend. It was my job to win my fight tonight. Now we got to all get together and help Kennedy win this fight.
Thanks, Steve. Best of luck to you.
All right.
Kenny?
Thank you, Chris. And certainly our thoughts and best wishes to the Cunningham family. Your thoughts on him tonight?
Oh, just a great performance. He fought a guy again, much bigger than him, much stronger than him. But he said it himself, size doesn't necessarily matter. The biggest heavyweights aren't always the best heavyweights. He reminds me a lot of Evander Holyfield, the type of conditioning and mentality that he brings in these fights against guys that continually outweigh him by 30 and 40 pounds. You can't help but admire the guy, and I'm excited to see him fight again.
Or 73 pounds, as they specifically mentioned tonight in that interview with Chris. And now they get ready for another fight, as he said, for daughter Kennedy awaiting her heart transplant. There's her mom, Livy, also the manager of husband Steve. And a big night here for the Cunningham family with the friends and family here to support them in Philadelphia. We'll have more when we come back to Fight Night live here in Philadelphia. Steve Cunningham winning it with a TKO in round 7 as he wins for the 28th time in his career and salutes his fans with daughter Kennedy by his side. And how tough is she? She's ready for her next fight. Proud of her daddy here tonight as he wins for the 13th time by way of knockout. November 8th, it will be heavyweights and haymakers on NBCSN's Fight Night as 2 knockout artists step into the ring. Hardcore Mansoor fights for redemption against Big Fred Cassie. Fight Night, Mansoor Cassie, November 8th, will be at the Sands here on NBCSN. And Amir Mansoor turning in one of the best fights we've ever had on Fight Night. He and Steve Cunningham. When Cunningham was knocked down twice, got back up and went on to win it. And here he is putting away Visinia tonight, a much bigger man, Natu Visinia. Cunningham winning, BJ.
Yeah, he did a great job, Kenny. He followed the game plan perfectly. He boxed Visinia early, and then he got him out of there late, landing nice, clean combinations, doing exactly what his corner told him to do. Good work.
And again, as we talked about the emotions, as you see his daughter Kennedy, as she waits her heart transplant, and like we heard from wife Livy earlier, they wait. They have the phone with them at all time. So a lot of emotions there. Cunningham comes through tonight. Where do you put him right now in the heavyweight ranks?
Well, he's providing something that's been missing for a long time. Action in the heavyweight division. His fights are always exciting, and he always comes in very well conditioned. He's extremely strong, has great stamina, and he just always provides entertaining fights, and I think that's what the public wants right now. They can't identify with an American heavyweight, but you can't identify with Steve Cunningham because he's exciting.
Well, he said, bring on bigger guys. The guy he was giving 73 pounds to tonight, and he puts him away.
Yeah, he looked fantastic, followed the game plan perfectly. Boxing, fundamentals, technique, and heart.
And the heart that he has, he and his family, we certainly wish them the very best as he was fighting tonight, as he said, for his daughter Kennedy as she awaits her heart transplant. That is the biggest fight. Thank you for being with us. Remember, NBC Fight Night back at the Sands Casino in Bethlehem next month. Join us then. Big Fred Cassie takes on Amir Mansoor. Coming up next, the Premier League match of the day for BJ Flores and Chris Mannix and our entire crew. I'm Kenny Rice saying thank you for watching Fight Night. Another big win for Steve Cunningham. And good night from Philadelphia.